Ladies and gentlemen, warriors of the soul, hear me now. We live in a world that's loud, chaotic, and sometimes so overwhelming it feels like no one hears us. But let me tell you a secret, a truth that's raw, unfiltered, and straight from the core of existence. Your heart has a voice, and it speaks louder than any words you'll ever say. Yeah, you heard me right. Your heart is screaming your truth, your pain, your joy, your dreams. Even when your lips are sealed, your heart is out there on full blast, broadcasting a frequency that cuts through the noise. And let me tell you, something out there listens. There's a truth about the human experience that often goes unspoken. Your heart has a language all its own. It doesn't rely on words, logic, or explanation. It communicates through the raw, unfiltered essence of who you are, your emotions, your intentions, your very being. When your lips fail to articulate what's inside you, your heart takes over. It doesn't matter if you're standing in the crowd or sitting in the quiet of your room. Your heart's voice doesn't wait for an audience. It speaks its truth, constantly sending out signals to the universe saying, this is who I am, this is what I feel, and this is what I need. Think about those moments in your life when words weren't enough. Maybe it was when you stood face to face with loss, the kind that leaves you breathless and hollow. Or perhaps it was when joy consumed you, filling every cell in your body, and no sentence or phrase could capture the depth of your gratitude. In those moments, your heart stepped up and spoke for you. It whispered in the pauses between your sobs or in the way your breath hitched as you tried to hold back tears. It roared in the laughter that echoed from your core when happiness was too big to contain. That's the power of your heart's voice. It's raw, genuine, and impossible to fake. What's remarkable is that your heart's voice doesn't just stay confined to your body. It radiates outward like ripples in water. You might not see it, but every beat carries your essence into the world. When you're hurting, your heart's energy changes. When you're hopeful, it shifts again. People around you might not always be conscious of it, but they feel it. That's why you can walk into a room and sense the tension, joy, or sorrow lingering there. Because hearts are constantly communicating, even when words are absent. But the influence of your heart doesn't stop with the people near you. There's a vast interconnected web of energy that ties us all together. And your heart is a part of that. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every intention you set sends a signal into this web. It's like tuning a guitar string. When you pluck one string, it resonates with others. Similarly, your heart's energy resonates with the universe itself. It's as if the cosmos is always listening, attuned to the vibration of your existence. Let's be real for a moment. Life isn't always kind. There are times when you feel crushed under the weight of it all, when you think, no one hears me, no one understands what I'm going through. It's easy to believe that your struggles go unnoticed, that your silent cries for help vanish into the void. But let me tell you something, that's not true. Not for 1 second. The universe has been wired to pick up on the frequency of your heart. When you feel pain, it registers. When you feel joy, it celebrates with you. It's as if every beat of your heart is a conversation, a constant dialogue with something greater than yourself. Imagine for a moment that your emotions are colors. When you're sad, you might radiate deep blues or grays. When you're happy, your energy could glow with vibrant yellows or golds. And when you're angry or passionate, fiery reds blaze out from your core. These colors don't stay confined within you. They bleed into the world, mixing with the colors of others and painting the canvas of reality. That's how powerful your heart is. It shapes the energy around you, influencing not only your life, but also the lives of those you may never meet. There's a fascinating beauty in this connection. Think about how music works. A single note played on a piano might seem small, insignificant even, but when it's combined with other notes, it creates a chord. When those chords are strung together, they form melodies that can make you weep, laugh, or dance. Your heart works in the same way. On its own, it sends out notes, small, consistent beats of energy. But when those beats join the symphony of the universe, they become part of something infinitely greater. Your heart, no matter how insignificant you might think it is, contributes to the music of existence. But here's the thing, the universe doesn't just hear your heart, it responds to it. When you put out energy, whether it's fear, hope, love, or anger, the universe reflects it back to you. It's like yelling into a canyon and hearing your voice echo. If you shout something positive, that positivity comes bouncing back. If you shout negativity, well, you can guess what returns. This isn't some abstract concept. It's a fundamental truth about the way energy works. What you give, you get. What you project, you attract. This is why it's so important to pay attention to what your heart is saying. If you carry anger, resentment, or despair for too long, that energy starts to define your reality. But if you choose to focus on gratitude, love, and hope, your heart begins to speak a different language, one that invites abundance, joy, and connection into your life. This isn't about denying your pain or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about acknowledging your emotions, letting your heart speak its truth, and then consciously choosing the direction you want your energy to flow. The universe is like a mirror, constantly reflecting your heart back to you. When you send out love, you find it in unexpected places. When you show kindness, it boomerangs back to you in ways you couldn't predict. And when you dare to hope, even in the darkest times, the universe conspires to meet you halfway. It might not always happen in the way you expect, but it happens. Here's where it gets really powerful. When you start to align your heart's energy with your actions, you become unstoppable. It's not enough to think or feel something, you have to live it. If your heart is telling you to pursue a dream, don't ignore it. If it's urging you to heal a relationship, listen. If it's pulling you toward a purpose bigger than yourself, follow it. Your heart is your compass, and its voice is your guide. The more you trust it, the more aligned you become with the rhythm of the universe. And don't think for a second that your heart's voice is too small to matter. History is full of people whose hearts changed the world, not because they had the loudest voices, but because they had the truest. Their hearts spoke of justice, love, freedom, and possibility, and the universe heard them. It responded by amplifying their energy, spreading it far beyond what they could have imagined. If their hearts could create that kind of impact, so can yours. In the end, your heart's voice is the purest expression of who you are. It's your truth, your essence, your connection to everything that exists. And the universe, it's always listening, always. Whether you're whispering in the dark or shouting from the rooftops, your heart's energy is felt, it resonates, it matters, and it will never, ever go unheard. So let your heart speak. Let it cry out in moments of pain and sing in moments of joy. Let it rage when injustice shakes you and quiet down when peace finds you. Whatever it says, let it be honest, let it be real. Because the more you let your heart's voice be heard, the more the universe will echo back its answer. I hear you, I see you, you matter. Have you ever sat in the stillness of your own mind and wondered if anyone truly notices you? If your thoughts, feelings, and struggles have any significance in the vast sea of existence? It's a haunting thought, isn't it? That you could pour your heart out into the world, into people, and still feel invisible. But let me tell you something that may not be obvious when the shadows of doubt creep in. You are never, ever ignored. Even in your darkest moments, when silence feels suffocating, your presence is felt. The truth is, you exist as part of a fabric far greater than you can imagine, and everything about you, your joys, your pains, your dreams, is woven into that fabric. Your heart, that quiet, persistent rhythm inside you, doesn't just exist to keep you alive. It exists to communicate who you are, what you're going through, and what you hope for. And make no mistake, what your heart has to say matters. It's heard even when you think no one is listening. Think about this. Every emotion you feel sends out a ripple, much like a stone dropped into a pond. That ripple travels outward, touching everything around it. You might think, I'm just one person. How can what I feel or do possibly matter? But the answer is simple. Your energy, your heart's voice, interacts with the world in ways that are both seen and unseen. People around you may not always recognize it consciously, but they feel it. The universe itself feels it. Your struggles are not unnoticed, and your victories, no matter how small, are never meaningless. Picture this, you're walking through life carrying a weight, perhaps it's grief, anxiety, or the exhaustion of trying to make sense of it all. You might feel as though you're screaming into a void, hoping for someone, anyone to notice, but that energy, that cry from your soul doesn't vanish, it resonates. Every tear, every silent plea, every hopeful whisper, it's all heard. It's maybe not by the people you expect or in the ways you imagine, but the universe has a way of recognizing your heart's energy and responding to it. Sometimes that response comes in subtle ways. A kind word from a stranger, a sudden moment of clarity, or an opportunity you didn't see coming. Other times it comes in the form of connection, someone reaching out to say, I've been there too, I understand. These moments are not coincidences. They're proof that your heart's voice is never lost. It's carried forward by the invisible currents of life, finding its way to those who need to hear it and those who can respond. Your heart has a power that defies logic. It's not about the volume of your words or the size of your actions. It's about the authenticity of your energy. When your heart speaks, it does so with a rawness that cuts through pretense and connects directly to the core of others. That's why someone can be moved to tears by a stranger's story or find hope in the smile of a passing face. It's not about the details. It's about the connection, the recognition of shared humanity. This power, the voice of your heart, is what makes you unstoppable. Think about it. Your heart beats with the same rhythm that has fueled movements, inspired revolutions, and created legacies. The people who have changed the world didn't do so because they shouted the loudest. They did it because their hearts spoke with conviction. Their voices carried the weight of truth, the kind that resonates far beyond their own lives. And guess what? That same power resides in you. Your heart's voice is what allows you to inspire, to heal, to build, and to break through barriers. It's what drives you to comfort a friend in need, to fight for what you believe in, or to pursue a dream that seems impossible. And it's what makes others take notice, not just of what you do, but of who you are. People may forget your words or your actions, but they will never forget how your heart made them feel. That's the kind of impact your voice can have. But let's be honest, power isn't always easy to recognize, especially when you're in the midst of struggle. When life feels like a constant uphill battle, it's easy to believe that your voice doesn't matter, that your contributions are insignificant. You might tell yourself, I'm just one person. What difference can I possibly make? But the truth is, your heart's voice is strongest in those moments of doubt and challenge. It's in the way you keep going when everything inside you says to give up. It's in the quiet resilience that no one else sees, but that changes everything nonetheless. Consider this: every time you choose hope over despair, love over fear, kindness over anger, your heart sends out a message. It's a declaration of who you are and what you stand for. And those messages, though small on their own, add up. They create a ripple effect that touches lives you may never know about. That's the beauty of your heart's power. It doesn't need recognition to be effective. It works quietly, persistently, shaping the world in ways you can't always see. This power isn't limited to grand gestures or dramatic moments. In fact, some of the most profound impacts come from the simplest expressions of your heart. A smile, a word of encouragement, a moment of understanding. These are the things that linger, that leave imprints on the souls of others. Never underestimate the power of your presence, your compassion, or your authenticity. They are the gifts your heart gives to the world, and they are invaluable. And here's the thing: your heart's voice isn't just powerful, it's necessary. The world needs what you have to offer. It needs your perspective, your strength, your unique energy. Imagine if every heart stayed silent, afraid that its voice wouldn't matter. Imagine the loss of beauty, creativity, and connection that would result. But you, by choosing to let your heart speak, contribute to something far greater than yourself. You become part of the symphony of humanity, each beat of your heart adding to the collective rhythm. The key is to trust in that power. Trust that your voice, even when it feels small, has value. Trust that your energy, even when it feels fragile, has strength. And trust that your heart, even when it's hurting, has the capacity to create change. The world is shaped not by the loudest voices, but by the truest ones. And your heart, with all its honesty and vulnerability, is one of those voices. So the next time you wonder if anyone notices, if anyone cares, remember this: your heart is always heard. Its power is undeniable. Its impact immeasurable. Even in your quietest moments, you are making a difference. You are seen, you are felt, and you are never ignored. Let your heart speak. Let it roar with passion when you're inspired, and whisper softly when you're at peace. Let it cry out when you're in pain, and sing boldly when you're in love. Whatever it has to say, let it be heard. Because in the end, and your heart's voice is what defines you. It's what connects you to others, to the universe, and to the endless possibilities of life. Never doubt its power, and never doubt that it matters, because it does, more than you'll ever know.
Faith in God's timing is a profound and often challenging concept to embrace. As human beings, we are naturally inclined to want things on our schedule. We set goals, make plans, and create expectations about how life should unfold. But inevitably, there are moments when life takes an unexpected turn, or when prayers seem to go unanswered for longer than we feel we can endure. In those moments, faith in God's timing becomes not just a concept, but a necessity, a lifeline that helps us navigate the uncertainties and waiting periods of life. God's timing is not ours, and that truth can be both comforting and difficult to accept. When we pray for something, whether it's healing, a breakthrough, or clarity about a decision, we often hope for an immediate response. But God operates outside of our limited understanding of time. He sees the bigger picture, the intricate weaving of events and circumstances that we cannot comprehend. The trust in his timing means surrendering our own sense of control and believing that he is working all things together for our good, even when we don't see it. Faith in his timing teaches us patience, but more importantly, it teaches us dependence. When we are forced to wait, we are reminded of our need for God. The waiting period becomes a season of growth, where our faith is refined and our character is developed. It is in these moments of delay that we learn to trust in his wisdom and his love, even when our desires are not immediately fulfilled. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. As a young man, he received a vision of greatness, but the journey to that destiny was anything but straightforward. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph endured years of hardship and uncertainty. Yet through it all, he remained faithful. He didn't understand why things were happening the way they were, but he trusted in God's plan. And when the time was right, Joseph's life was transformed. He was elevated to a position of great influence and was able to save many lives, including his family. Joseph's story is a powerful reminder that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow. The delays and detours we experience are not wasted. They are preparing us for what lies ahead. Sometimes the waiting period is God's way of protecting us from something we're not ready for, or guiding us towards something better than we imagined. It's also important to remember that God's delays are not denials. Just because an answer hasn't come yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Faith in his timing means holding on to hope, even when circumstances seem bleak. It means trusting that his promises are true and that his plans for us are good, even when the evidence around us suggests otherwise. This trust becomes even more significant when we face pain. Pain is an inescapable part of the human experience, and it often leaves us questioning why. Why does suffering exist? Why do good people face hardship? Why doesn't God intervene sooner? These are difficult questions, and while we may never have all the answers, there is one truth we can cling to. God has a purpose in the pain. Pain, as hard as it is to endure, has the power to shape us in ways that nothing else can. It strips away our illusions of self-sufficiency and forces us to lean on God in ways we might not otherwise. In our weakest moments, we discover his strength. In our darkest valleys, we find his light. And in our deepest sorrows, we experience his comfort. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to refine us, to teach us, and to draw us closer to him. The very things that threaten to break us can become the tools he uses to build us into something stronger and more beautiful. This doesn't mean that God causes our pain. Many of the struggles we face are the result of living in a broken world. But it does mean that he can redeem our pain and bring something good out of even the most difficult circumstances. Consider the story of Job. He lost everything: his wealth, his health, and his family. His suffering was immense, and he wrestled with questions about why God would allow such devastation. Yet through it all, Job held on to his faith. He didn't understand the purpose of his pain, but he trusted in God's sovereignty. In the end, Job's faith was rewarded, and he experienced restoration and blessing beyond what he had before. Job's story reminds us that pain is not the end of the story. It is a chapter, not the whole book. And while we may not see the purpose of our pain in the moment, we can trust that God is at work behind the scenes, bringing about his greater plan. Sometimes the purpose of our pain is not just about us. Our struggles can become a source of strength and encouragement for others. When we share our stories of perseverance and faith, we remind others that they are not alone in their struggles. We become living testimonies of God's faithfulness, and our pain becomes a platform for his glory. This doesn't mean that the pain will suddenly feel less significant or that the questions will disappear. It's okay to grieve, to cry out to God, and to wrestle with doubt. God is not afraid of our honesty, and he invites us to bring our pain to him. In fact, the Psalms are filled with raw, heartfelt cries to God, laments that express the full range of human emotions. These prayers remind us that it's okay to not have it all together. What matters is that we bring our pain to the one who can heal it. In the midst of pain, we are often tempted to pull away from God, to shut him out in our anger or despair. But it is in these moments that we need him most. He is not a distant observer of our suffering. He is a loving Father who walks with us through it. Jesus himself experienced pain and suffering on the cross. He knows what it feels like to be abandoned, rejected, and broken. And because he endured the ultimate pain, he is able to meet us in ours with compassion and understanding. Faith in God's timing and purpose in the pain are deeply intertwined. Both require trust that God is good, that he is in control, and that he is working all things together for our good. This trust doesn't eliminate the pain or the waiting, but it gives us hope. It anchors us in the knowledge that we are not alone and that our struggles are not meaningless. So when you find yourself in a season of waiting or walking through the fire of pain, hold on to these truths. Trust that God's timing is perfect, even if it doesn't match your own. Believe that he is with you in the midst of your pain and that he has a purpose for it. And know that no matter what, His love for you is unwavering. In time, you will see the beauty that can come from the ashes, and you will understand the depth of his faithfulness. Until then, keep walking, keep praying, and keep trusting.